I went to some of the hard-hit coastal areas just last month, that's December, and I was astounded how clean many of the beachfront waterside suburbs are now. We saw terrible photos in the early days after the tsunami in March and also April of debris everywhere. But 6 or 7 months on, the local governments and the local construction crews have done a wonderful job in clearing those areas. So for many of the coastal areas, I saw just the foundations of houses which were swept away by the tsunami and the roads in between. But that area is now largely clear, ready for reconstruction. The radiation problem is one of low-level radiation over a large area. And this is a new challenge for the Japanese government. My belief is that there were many systems in place which helped the Japanese government respond to the earthquake and the tsunami disaster. But the Fukushima nuclear power plant problem is a new problem. The government is engaged in many testing systems about the food supply and about materials, including the debris in the tsunami zone. And we'll just have to see how successful those systems are in the months to come. Kobe earthquake happened about 15, 16, 17 years ago now. Well, stronger building codes, better warning systems taking into account information and media systems. That's quite new in Japan. And I believe all those helped to lessen the suffering and the number of deaths in the March tsunami and earthquake event of last year. If any country can, Japan can. And I've often thought about this. I think there are 4 what I might call killer applications in the Japanese system for emergency preparedness, some of which have come out of the learning and the mistakes of Kobe. One is the very high-tech early warning systems. Secondly are the strongest building codes in the world, probably. Third would be the disaster drills that every community takes place in, and especially school children. And fourthly, there's an infrastructure spending. Maybe 5% of the country's budget every year goes on flood disaster prevention and putting stormwater defenses along the coast. So those systems are in place because Japan has a history of disasters, not only earthquakes and tsunamis, but landslides through too much rain, flooding, volcanic explosions from time to time. Many people say that in Vancouver and the lower mainland, we're quite vulnerable to the Cascadia fault line, which lies just off the west coast of Vancouver Island. Now, it's not clear exactly how that will affect our area in terms of damage and in terms of a likely tsunami to the west coast of Vancouver. We have a very strong emergency preparedness system in British Columbia. One learning point from Japan was that 100,000 personnel from their army and other services came to the disaster in the first 48 hours. And I would like to think that British Columbia could gain that amount of support from the Federal Army Service. But the programs here tend to suggest that people might be on their own for the first 72 hours. So that means we have to prepare ourselves in terms of where we live, for house insurance, for looking out for our neighbours and our friends, and preparing packs of food and sanitary items and battery-operated radios to get us through the first 72 hours, until help can arrive from outside.